Okay. So when you are flying a drone, do you really, or even before flying the drone, do you really need to do risk assessment? Is the risk assessment and analysis required in your in your activity of drone flying? What do you think? What is your thought on this topic?
Every flight has its own risk. So every time uh, a drone is up, there is, and it is always in different environment. So every environment has its own challenges. For
Correct.
example, terrain, location, altitude,
Correct.
all depends situation,
Yeah.
what kind of activity you're doing. Everything is different.
Right. So you also have to do a risk assessment and analysis. Okay. So there could be from operational perspective, there could be from the perspective of some emergency situations could arise. So you are proactively safeguarding your operations or safeguarding your devices. So like for example, if I'm going on a long tour in my car, so what I will do, I will normally get my car serviced. I will make sure that there is a proper water, batteries are charging properly, brakes are proper, oil is proper in my engine, or brake oil is there properly. My wipers are working properly. I will make sure that my headlights, my tail lights are working properly and everything. So all these things will be nothing but these are all our risk assessment. So you should not land up कि आप जा रहे हो और फिर somewhere your wiper is not working, or your brakes are not functioning properly, or you do not have a proper tail light. So all this could lead to a problems or challenges, or there could be a risk involved into it. So before actually doing your flight, similar to your car driving, you should make sure that you do risk analysis of whatever the operations or whatever the activities you are intend to perform. Okay, so let's see now. This is a small module. First, what is risk assessment? It is a process of assessing the risk to people's safety and health from the workplace hazards. Okay, lot of time we might be flying a drone in a, like refineries or industrial units, or maybe even near the telecom tower, or maybe near to the power line tower, or even into the windmill situations. Or for a simple example, I would give you agriculture flying. If I'm flying my drone into the agriculture field, I should know what all the obstacles are there. There could be a tree, there could be a house, there could be some power line wires might be going, or telephone wires might be going over there. There could be a well in the farm also. So whatever all these things are, you should be aware of these challenges and obstacles. So what is hazard? Hazard is nothing but it is a source, situation or a act with a potential for a harm in term of a human injury or ill health or damage to the property, or a combination of these. Example hazard could be like a simple example it is given. Lion out of his cage is a hazardous situation. Okay. Why it is hazardous? Because it can injure or kill people. So what is the risk factor over here? Risk factor is it can cause the lion out of the cage can cause injury or can kill the person or the people. Okay, so the combination of the likelihood of an occurrence of a hazardous event or exposure and severity of injury or ill health that can be caused by the event or exposure is called as risk. Okay, so whenever we are trying to fly the drone, we should always analyze the risk options over there. What are the risk options? What are the assessment you have to do? Like when I'm doing a surveillance of a particular location. Okay, so for example, I was supposed to do a surveillance. Like other day, one of my students was telling that he is actually an aerial photographer. Okay, so he was called by one of the church to take the complete footage of the church in and out. Okay, so before actually the flight, he has to make sure the size of the door size, because when he is flying the drone outside is not a problem, but when he is flying the drone inside the church, taking some aerial photographs and all that thing, that point in time he should see what is what and what, because there were a lot of big fans were there, a lengthy fan, fan was hooked to the ceiling, and the ceiling was very high. So there were huge rod connected to the fan, and the fan was coming little bit down. So there was almost rods were almost of 8 to 10 feet of height. Okay, so he has to fly the drones above the fan and the below the fan also. So in that scenario, he has to be very careful. So that assessment he needs to do when he is flying that drone. Same thing is what we call as what is hazardous and what is risk involved into those activities. Okay, what is emergency? Emergency is a situation that possesses an immediate risk to the health, life, property, or environment. An unforeseen combination of circumstances or resulting state that calls for immediate action. हम लोग बोलते हैं ना, पूछते हैं emergent emergency है क्या, immediate करना है क्या, what normally we say that word, right? Whether you are there is an emergency. If there is an emergency, we have to respond immediately. Okay, immediate action is required. अगर emergency नहीं है, then you can take some time. Then you say no, नहीं ठीक है, you can do it later stage. So it is not emergency. Okay, so that is situation where you can take your time to respond or take your time to do that activity. But if the situation demand that it is an emergency situation, you have to take immediate action. You have to provide immediate support for that kind of scenario. So that is what is the definition of emergency. Okay, so what kind of emergency could be? Like there could be emergency related to fire, there could be emergency related to medical, there could be emergency to environmental, it could be due to human, it could be a technical also, hardware and software emergencies. So emergencies can be reduced or mitigated by preparing an emergency plan. Like for example, in a resort, okay, for example, I'm taking example of a resort. In a resort, there is a possibility of some other point in time there could be a fire. Okay, I do not know, maybe last 2 years there was no fire in my resort, doesn't mean that there could not be a fire tomorrow. So from the day one, the way I have got the license for my operating of my resort, my when I get the license, before I getting the license, the people will tell me that I need to take precaution from the fire perspective, or I should have some plan with respect to the fire. So the fire department, from where I have to take the NOC, they will instruct me that you need to keep some fire extinguishers at different locations in the resorts. You may have to keep sand buckets, or you may have to put some sprinklers or hoses, or pipes and all that thing, whatever is required with respect to manage and control the fire in case of any emergency related to fire. Probably near my kitchen, I may have to put some sprinklers, or maybe I have to put some deploy some fire resistance systems over there. Okay, or maybe some water or something like that should be readily available at that location, because kitchen is more prone for fire. So that situation, I need to have some mitigation plan or some emergency plan to overcome those kind of situations. Similarly, medical, like in since my resort is at remote location, so a lot of times sometimes people may come to my site after having a food or something. They may fall sick, or they may encounter some problem, or in the resort itself a lot of kids come, they play, they run here and there, and then they fall. So I should have, so that is an emergency situation, right? So in case of emergency, I should have some basic medical facility, the first aid box should be there, all that things. Okay, sometimes because of environmental, because of like I may have open swimming pool and all that things. Okay, but all of a sudden the rain comes, so I should have some shelter over there in case it is raining. All of a sudden it start raining, so I should have, so that my guest should be able to take the shelter over there. So that all that impacts is there. Sometimes humans, as you are flying the drone or you are working, sometimes over the period of time of continuous working, I may fall sick and all that thing. So in that scenario, I should have some mitigation plan, when if my personals or my people are not keeping well or not able to perform their day-to-day activities. There could be lot of emergency with respect to the technical also. It could be hardware emergency or software agency. Like for example, मेरा propeller टूट गया, motor is not functioning properly, landing gear got break, or my battery is not working. So these are all my hardware emergencies or hardware challenges. So I need to have a spare. So I will keep spare propeller, spare batteries, or I will have I will be utilizing multiple set of batteries. So I'm not depending only on one single set of batteries. So you will see whatever the drones we are flying, we are having at least 3 set of batteries for usage. So that is how we will flying our drone under the spare components also. Similarly, there could be a software emergency. All of a sudden, my software is having a bug and it is giving problem. Yeah, mera RC is getting hanged. So in that scenario, what should I have an emergency plan? Okay, I should have some situation procedure to handle those kind of emergency. So emergency plan specifies procedure for handling sudden or unexpected situation. Like other day when I was taking a training in the evening, all of sudden my drone RC I was not able to power on my drone. It was just arm, but I was not able to give throttle up. So there was some error was come on my drone. So in that emergency situation, I have to disarm my drone. I have to disconnect my batteries and everything. And I took a reboot of my drone completely, including my remote control. After the reboot, I checked if there are any errors or notifications on my devices. Until unless I have satisfied with all the checks, then only I have taken drone for operations. If I would see that there is a repetitive errors or alerts on my drone, I would have not continued flying that drone. I would have called technician to check and perform the diagnostics on that particular drone. Okay, that is how we should have an emergency plan or procedure for handling sudden or unexpected situation. So let's see now what are the emergency situations. First is the loss of communication or control link. So that means your RC is not able to communicate to the drone or drone is not able to communicate to the RC. So there is a communication loss between both. How what will happen in that scenario? If there is a communication loss, you will not able to control your drone. Eventually what happens? The RPAS will crash or it will go here and there. Okay, if there is a wind or some situation occurs, the your RPAS or your drone would go here and there and it may crash into someone or it may crash on a building or it may crash in a telecom tower or a power line tower or any obstacles. It may crash into the tree also, the obstacle resulting in a widespread secondary injury to humans from US debris or building damage. So it could happen anything. So these are the possible cause or effects, sorry, not cause, effects because of the loss of communication or control link. Okay, what would be the contingency plan if such kind of situation could occur? So what I would say, communication failure will also trigger the smart return to home, where aircraft returns at a safe altitude. So there is something configured into a device in a drone that there is a handshake happening. Okay, there is a handshake, continuously handshake happening between the drone and the RC. Okay, so after it doesn't get a continuous 10 handshake or 5 handshake, it will call it as a loss of communication or failure of control link. Okay, in that scenario drone will trigger the smart return to home feature. That means what, it will automatically take the decision and it will land where the drone has launched or from the home position. This setting is called as FSCOM. Okay, communication failsafe feature is available to counter this type of emergency. Okay, so FSCOM is configured in by the OEM into the drone. So if you are not getting a handshake after a certain time or certain time number of handshakes it is supposed to that, it assumes that there is a failure in communication or loss of communication has happened or loss of control link is happened. So in that scenario drone will take decision on its own and it will return to home. Understood the emergency, how it has been handled for loss of communication or control link? Any questions over here? So this is one of the emergency situation. Can you think about any other emergency situation can occur in a drone when you are flying the drone? Any other emergency
Bird
situation?
hit.
Bird it. Okay. Any other?
Deviating from a specified path.
Correct. So that may be called as a straying. Okay, if you are intended to fly a drone in a particular location or in particular area, if your drone goes beyond that area, okay, or it flies beyond your control, it could be a devastating. Now the example what you gave about the bird hit, there is no option available to control that, because bird hit is a bird hit. अगर उसके वजह से ड्रोन डैमेज हो गया, आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल हो गया, you do not have any option to control it. It may crash or it may recover back also, it depends upon. So there is no option available for that kind of situation. But normally bird avoid to come near the drone because of the sound and the propellers what getting moved and all that things. Okay, so they try to avoid. Sometimes happens, but sometimes bird has hidden the drones, and that has caused the crash of the drones most of the time. Okay, whereas the second example what you gave is called as aircraft flyaway. Okay, so that is called as geofence non-conformance. Okay, so flyaway emergency which occurs due to GPS or hardware software failure is known as straying. Okay, so normally on your drone, on your type certified drone, we will be always configuring geofencing. So it is a virtual boundary, horizontal boundary, virtual horizontal boundary. So your drone will not go outside that boundary. If you try to take your drone near to that boundary, it will initially give you warning. Like if you have configured a warning threshold of, let's say, 5 meters, so as it reaches near the boundary before 5 meters, it will give you warning that you are approaching the geofence boundary. As you come away, furthermore you go towards the geofence, or you touch the geofence, or you cross the geofence, it will normally not cross the geofence. As you close approach to the 0 point of your geofence, it will trigger the RTH. Okay, so if these things are not configured, let's say I have not configured the geo fencing, that is called geofence non-conformance. If I'm not configured, what will happen? My drone will go further away, and sometimes it will be go beyond my control. Okay, in that scenario, it could be a mid-air collision with another manned or unmanned aerial aircraft, or it may crash into the building or obstacles. Obstacles could be tree, tower, or maybe any object, crash the debris, injuring people on the ground. So a lot of time the crash could cause injury to the people also. Okay, so these are possible effect of aircraft flyaway. What is the contingency plan for such kind of situation? If you don't have to encounter such situation, you will always configure a geo. Like for example, I am a aerial photographer. So if I am flying my drone in a resort, so I will configure as per that resort a geofence for me. If I am flying a drone around the television tower or a telecom tower, I will configure the geofence around that tower, so that might there I have to create two boundaries. One is not going too close to the tower, okay, and second is not going away from the tower also very far. So I may have to configure two boundaries, inner boundary and outer boundary also. Same goes for my windmill inspections also, or even for my solar panel inspections, or even for a building inspections also. So I may always create, so I may configure the device as a obstacle. Okay, the tower may be obstacle for me, so I will create a boundary around it, so that my drone doesn't go very close to those obstacles or those towers or building or whatever device I'm trying to monitor or survey. Okay, and then I will create another boundary from outside, which will say that my drone should not go beyond this outer boundary also. So within that confined space of two boundaries, my drone should fly and should do all the activities. Okay, so that's how you create geofencing, so that fly away or straying. Okay, straying is an important word, so that straying doesn't happen, and you lost the drone or something like that. Okay, or damage the drone. Next emergency could be due to battery power loss or failure. Okay, so in case all of a sudden your battery is dead, you do not have any option. But lot of time battery doesn't all of a sudden dies. Okay, it has, if you are started with 100%, it will eventually go down slowly, like 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40 kind of thing. So in this scenario, you should always configure something called as fail safe. Okay, in case of this uncontrolled, like if you're losing the battery, a lot of time battery, older batteries get discharged very fast. Okay, and you are not keep continuously monitoring your battery levels. Okay, so you are not aware what is happening. But if you see there is a frequent discharge happening of a battery, lot of time you will see uncontrolled descent, or a landing could cause serious injuries to me. Sometimes all of a sudden it will lose the power, okay, or slowly your drone will come down, okay, or descend, or sometimes chance of mid-air fire also, like older batteries or the batteries which are not in good conditions, they may cause some fire also in the air itself. So you should. That's why we are telling that if there you see there are drones, yeah, the batteries which are leak or bulge, you should avoid them. Okay, or sometimes because of this battery power loss and all the things, you will always have a crash landing of your drones. So what is the contingency plan? There is something called as battery failsafe cautions, the pilot for low battery warning. So for our drones, the OEM has configured it around 40% of your battery life. Okay, so whenever I've charged, I'm using my drone, I'm using 100%. So as I'm flying the drone, it will tell me my battery is at 90%, 80%, 70%, 60%. Moment it reaches 50%, I will instruct my pilots or team members to land the drone safely. If I do not do that, before 40%, it will give me a warning that you are reaching minimum threshold. After 40%, it will automatically trigger the RTH and it will land. So depending upon initiate. So RTH is return to home, or RTL is return to launch. Do you think that return to home and return to launch are the same points, or they are different points?
No, they are different.
How they are different?
Return to home would be the base at which you have configured your home to be. Launch would be the project site at which from which you are starting that particular activity. So like a platform or on a ground or something like that.
So for example, if I have configured a drone in Mumbai, okay, and I take it to the Igatpuri and I'm flying the drone, so will my Mumbai will be returned to home? And
No, you'll have to reconfigure from if you were hand holding the remote, then it will be portion would be as home that you'll have to configure. If it is on a planned platform where you know launch pad from where you are giving the instruction to the drone, then it will come back to that particular launch pad itself.
okay, so you're right, absolutely. So basically, normally what happens, like I'll give you an example from agricultural perspective. So lot of time we see we are standing on the edge of the farm or little bit away from the farm. Okay, comfortable position from where you will be setting up our a control station or a base station. So there you will take out the drone from your car or your eco, and you will be putting on the ground. You will be powering on the drone. Okay, you are powering the drone, you are doing all sorts of checks, everything. You might be filling the drone with the uh, fertilizer and everything, so you are getting the drone ready at that location. So that is your home location. But now you are flying, so a lot of time what we'll do is we'll take the carry the drone and we take it near to the farm or edge of the farm or the corner of the farm. That may be my launch location. Okay, or maybe I would have a launch pad somewhere near the farm, so I will put the drone over there. So that could be my launch location. So I have the first location as home location, where I have powered, I have done all the checks, I have done all the readiness of my drone. Then I have physically carried the drone to a new location, that is my launch location, from where actually I am going to fly my drone, or my drone is going to take off. Okay, so in this scenario, my RTH is different and my RTL is different. Okay, but sometimes we do the checks at the same location. Like for example, during our training purposes also, our RTH and RTL are same locations. So normally we'll keep the drone on the ground, we'll do all the pre-checks, we'll power on the drone, we'll connect the RC, everything we'll do, we'll get ready, we'll do put off the safety switch and we'll fly the drone. So my RTH and RTL in this scenario is same. Okay, if they are two different locations, then they are two different locations. If they are at the same location, if I'm doing the home location as well as the launch location, is the same, then it will be same. So in this scenario, depending upon whatever you have configured, accordingly it will take autonomous decision, and at a predefined location it will land. This feature is called as FSBAT, okay, or it is called as battery fail-safe feature, which is available and configured by the OEM. We cannot change that. Okay, normally as a pilot, we are not allowed to change these features. If you want to get change these features, we have to contact the OEM. OEM will have a separate admin login to do all these changes in backend. Okay, clear on this emergency procedure? Another is ARPA's loss of control. That means earlier your drone was not able to communicate with the remote control. But even sometimes your ARPAs will also not get the control. Okay, it lost the control. In that scenario, what effects it will have? It will have an undesired flight trajectory, could cause mid-air collision with another ARPAS or manned aircraft. Landing could cause serious injury to many persons or ground and possibly fatalities. Okay, so what is the contingency plan for such kind of a scenario? In case your RPAS loses the control, how that will happen? So stabilization and position holding based on GPS and INS, that is reduced any uncontrolled action risk. So you should always, so that's why we say when we are flying the drone, there is something called as GPS settings. Okay, so we'll always verify what is the GPS count. Okay, there are two more parameters which we need to verify during the flight path. Okay, during or before flight, before taking the flight. So those parameters will tell us how comfortably our drone land at a particular location in case of any emergency situation. That is like ARPA's loss of control. In case of that scenario, if GPS is not able to provide the signals or IMU is not able to provide the signals and all the thing, in that scenario, you have to use the drone in a manual mode. That means you should directly take the control of the drone by putting the RC in manual mode. So here you are not utilizing any sensors or anything like that. You are directly controlling like a normal basic drone. Like, earlier we used to have a drone where it was just communicating with the signals. Okay, it is just communicating the signals. Like in aero modeling, especially, we used to do that. So we are flying it. We call it as a raw flying. Okay, so similarly here you can take the drone into a manual mode. So whatever controls you give, it will fly the drone. Okay, so it is a manual mode. It is a little bit difficult to fly in a manual mode. Even especially the landing is also sometimes difficult, because here the complete drone will perform as you are performing. Okay, it will not give you any sort of warning. It will not do anything. It will, if you throttle down करोगे ना, सीधा ऊपर से आके नीचे ड्रोन क्रैश हो जाएगा. So you have to be very careful when you are throttling down. Okay, especially landing करते हैं हम लोग throttle down करते हैं, तो throttle आपका नीचे आ रहा है, तो you have to smoothly bring the drone very carefully. Okay, so that's in manual mode. The throttle down is a very very tricky and critical part. ओके, समटाइम्स आप ड्रोन लैंड करते क्रैश भी कर देते हो या टॉपल कर देते हो. ओके, क्रॉस लैंडिंग हो जाता है. तो अगर क्रॉस में लैंडिंग हो गया तो योर ड्रोन में टर्न अपसाइड डाउन. ओके, सो दैट कुड कॉज लॉट ऑफ डैमेज टू योर ड्रोन. Okay, unsuccessful landing or flight termination, the vehicle breaks up or totaling, post crash fire, so that's what I'm saying. Unsuccessful landing, you're not landing your drone properly. So that is the reason why we always, when we are doing a landing exercise, we'll always trigger RTL. Okay, during our practicals we will always test our emergency procedure. So we'll always trigger RTL. We'll not do manual landings. Okay, so manual landing is not advisable because it could lead to unsuccessful landing or flight termination. It could cause crash. It could cause breakup to your drone and all the things. So you could damage your propeller, you could damage your motors, you could damage the frame, landing gear. All the things could possibly happen. So new drones are always available with this RTL or RTH feature. So you can always either press of the button or on the screen itself you can trigger the RTL or RTH on your drone. So you should always follow the best practice when you are flying the drone and when you are landing the drone. when you are flying, you are taking up the drone. So the drone is more safer when it is on the ground or when it is in air, not in the mid. Like when it is taking off and it is closer to the ground, it is very, very difficult and challenging situation. So moment you give throttle up, you should bring drone such a up in height that it should be around 6 7 feet up in the air. So that is the position where it will be much stabler, much stable drone would be there. Okay, it can keep on hovering at that particular location till you give the next command or news signal to that drone. More you are closer to the ground, the gravity will try to pull the down. So sometimes drone will get pulled down. So a lot of time you will see when even you are flying, well, when you are well up in the height, okay, 6 7 feet 8 feet height wave, lot of time you will see drone will make motions on its own. Sometimes it will go up or down little bit. So that variance will be there. So that's why we never keep the drone very close to the ground. Because of that variance, sometimes it can crash on the ground itself. Okay, if it goes up, it is not harm, but if it goes down, it can crash my drone on the ground. So there is something called as vertical variance. Okay, so that variance is there always. So just to avoid that variance, and that avoid variance can cause a crash, we'll always take the drone well up in the sky or in the heighted location. So maybe normally I would advise my students to take drone at least to 7 to 8 feet. So it is comfortable at your eyesight when you are flying it. Not too high, not too low. Comfortable. You should bring your drone to a comfortable eyesight flying. Okay, comfortable, not very straining on your neck or anything. You should comfortably fly your drone. Okay, that is what I normally advise to my students. Okay, hostile remote takeover or control of our pass. So this is like normally like hacking of your drone. Okay, like in system laptops or computers where hostile takeover of your system is there. So similarly in drone also this can be possible. Okay, this can be possible, or in near future this kind of situations can also arise. So DGCA has told that in this type of drones, you should not have a blind connectivity with RC and the drone. So there has to be something called as binding. So for example, if you have a drone and you have a remote control, if I bring a similar type of a remote control, the remote control can control my drone also. So such things should not happen. So if you buy a toy, a remote toy from a toy shop, you will see this kind of scenario, right? Because they are also communicating on the same frequency, 2.4 gigahertz. Okay, and if you bring two remotes, that toy can be controlled by the second remote also. Okay, so this is something called as hostile remote takeover or control of RPAS. So that should not happen. That's why you will always have a remote with a what is the security aspect implied on it. So there will be a binding. Not only there will be what we call a sequence followed, but there will be some kind of a binding. So you will not have another same type of remote communicating to your drone. So you will have a binding to it. Second thing, also your drone ports where you can upload the plans or upload the software and all that things. Those are also been password protected. So the software part is also been taken care and managed through the software control, software or password control. Okay, you can't just simply connect the cable and you connect the laptop and start uploading the new software and all things. So there will be a separate password controller, separate admin login is required to do it. So all these features are been implemented so that hostile remote takeover or control of RPAS is not done. Okay, through the lot of time your control station can be also been hacked. Okay, so you should always imply all the safety pro, because end of the day your control station is nothing but it's like a laptop only. Okay, it will have operating system and all the things. So whatever is there, you should always have a control mechanism set on it, or there is a security aspects is been set up on those devices. You cannot leave them open. Okay, and these passwords what are been provided or what's been set up on these devices, they are not given to the pilots. Okay, even we do not have the passwords for changing the setups. So basically OEM will have their own setup. So in case we are requesting them to change any parameters, their engineer will come and do the changes as per the requirement. Okay, there are some settings which are even on request, they are not being changed because they are been told not to be changed as per the certification of DGCA. Okay, so that is how you control the hostile remote takeover or control of RPAS. Okay, this is the last second last slide, I would say. So there is something called as a topic which has been taken up by the ICAO, that is called threat and error management. Okay, so threat and error management is an overreaching the safety concept regarding aviation operations and human performance. The TREM framework is at a conceptual model. Okay, so as of now the TEM framework is still not been clear what and how and what to be done. Okay, this is just one slide to tell you what is about it only. Okay, so ICAO has not released any proper guidelines or anything about this. They are still in a conceptual stage. There would be some document coming from the ICAO as well as from our DGCA also in near future that assist in understanding for operational perspective the interrelationship between the safety and the human performance in dynamic and challenging operational context. There are three basic components in TREM framework, that is what are the threats, what are the errors, and undesired states. Okay, the threats are nothing but generally defined as an events or error that occur beyond the influence of line personnel, increase of operational complexity, and which must be managed to maintain the margin of safety. Okay, so there could be any kind of threat. It could be due to the human factor, the person who is flying the drone, or there could be somebody else also. A lot of time we have seen some videos where the farmers, you're flying a drone in a farm for a demo purpose and things. So some farmer is actually throwing a stick. So that is some kind of a threat to the drone operations, or there could be something. So you need to know what could be the challenges or could be increased operational complexities which must be managed to maintain the margin of safety. Like for example, when I'm flying the drone in farm, so I would make sure that I need to analyze if there are any obstacles in the farm. There could be a power line tower could be going through the farm, there could be a house in the farm, there could be some old tree might be there in my farm in between. So if there is something like that, I should take account of it, and then I see that as a threat when my operational activity. So I need to configure my flight plan such a way that obstacles are also taken care. Okay, so when I'm planning my flight plan, I will define these obstacles in my flight plan. So my drone doesn't go near to those obstacles. Okay, lot of time what we see is there are errors generally defined as actions or inactions by line personnel that lead to deviation from organizational or operational intentions or expectations. So lot of times some errors are on its own. Okay, not I would say intentionally. Sometimes they are by mistake, or they are ignorant sometimes. Like for example, I know my drone has been configured for 40% threshold of my battery, so I should not ignore this operational what we say configuration. Okay, so I should know that if I have to I'm flying the drone, I should know that before 40 reaches 40% I should land my drone. So I set myself a procedure saying that the moment we reach 50% of my battery utilization, I will trigger my landing of my drone. If I do not do it, I ignore that. Okay, there would be definitely some alert would be coming from my drone, but a lot of time people ignore it. Okay, so these are errors or these are issues which are not following the operational activities, or a deviation from the organizational or operational intentions. Okay, or whatever has been configured. So if you do not follow these, definitely what will happen, it will moment it reaches 40%, it will try to trigger the RTI. So a lot of time we are flying the drone, if we are not configured the geofencing, we are flying the drone very far and all thing. And if within that 10% it is not able to reach the RTL location, what will happen? It may trigger another emergency landing procedure if it is configured. If it is not configured, it may fly. So because it will not know what to do now, because it is not able to reach that particular location, so it will come and land if the battery is there. Okay, if the battery dies off by the time it reaches, then your drone will crash. Okay, there will be a subsequently damage to your drone, or you may lose your drone also beyond repair, beyond flight capacity for the next flight. So that you should avoid. Undesired states, generally defined as operational conditions where an unintended situation result in reduction in margin of safety. If you are doing something beyond normal situations, normal conditions, and all the things, you do not know what could happen. Like if I take a control of the drone, like for example, I'll tell you. Yeah, Parag, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Say the earlier point where you said that if the battery on its way back to RTL discharges and it has to land, okay, when we are initiating a particular project which requires the drone to fly to a certain zone, and we decide the geofencing also,
Hmm.
the drone by itself, doesn't it calculate the distance it travels from the remaining battery, or what kind of battery is required to travel from one point A to point B? The moment it finds that on its way, if the point B to point A return is supposed to take more battery time, won't the drone tell us that I am going beyond the range of return?
So as of now, these things are not been configured, or it can be configured in a drone. Okay, so that is called as what is it called? No point of return. Okay, that point is what you are looking is called as no point of return. So in aviation, when I'm planning a flight from Mumbai to Delhi, for example, so I know my capacity of my fuel tank and all that things. Okay, so I will have enough fuel and all the things. So, but at a certain range there would be a point. If I cross that point, I cannot return back to my base. So I may have to do an emergency landing into the nearby airport or whatever it is, or may I have to proceed to my destination. So that is called no point of return. Okay, so that is if I crosses that, that is. But these things are as of now not configured into the drones. Okay, because we do not know what kind of operation. If you know the operations and you have a control to configure it, you can configure it. Okay, you can do that. But as of now, these are not there in the drone configurations. Like you have a geofencing, you have a vertical height what you can limit, but you do not know what could be the point from where I can take. I have already limited my drone from a horizontal perspective, is that I've already set the geofence. So it will not go beyond my geofence. In case I have not configured the geofence, how it will know that what is the point, how far it is, from what respect, that we need to configure in the drone. Like if I want to define that my drone should not go beyond from my base location to, let's say, 2 kilometers. If it is go beyond 2 kilometers and I should trigger a RTL, I can configure that, but I have to configure it separately.
Okay.
Okay, like I was talking. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, but in this case, say for example, even as separately, if I configure that my drone should not cross 2 kilometer of radius, but I am conducting a mapping activity. Now the mapping activity is within 2 kilometers,
Hmm.
but the drone is going to and fro and to and fro to an extent of 40% of the battery as suggested. But
Hmm.
at that particular point of time, it is on the threshold of 2 kilometers. Even after I coming, I mean, it says that it should come back. If
Hmm.
it is unable to, then will it land then and there if if that threshold is set at 40, or will it
See,
come back
40,
to?
what is threshold 40? Threshold 40 is nothing but if my battery is consumed to 40%, I have that 40% remaining. In that 40%, I can always come back and land at my RTL.
Okay.
It will come back. No? Like if I'm not, if my threshold is set at 40%, like in normally in your project, you will not configure 40% to be a safe operations, because a lot of time the students ignore the battery. That's why it has been configured 40%. Okay, in normal scenario, okay, in regular operations like in agriculture sector, we normally configure our threshold to somewhere around 10% or 20%. Okay, so we lower that value. because we want to utilize maximum of battery, because there actually we are flying the fully loaded drone. So I need battery, and I cannot say 40% पे मुझे trigger होना चाहिए RTL. I will trigger the RTL at 20%. Okay, so at least that 20% of battery would be available for me to safely return back to my base.
Okay.
Okay, so that is how
Okay.
you. It is all configurable. See, certain things are not in your control, but then you can always ask OEM to do it for you if it is possible. Okay, so you can set it up. Like for example, in DJI drone, there are a lot of open things are there. You can configure as per your requirements. So you can do all those things. Okay, there are certain parameters are set at a default value only. So based on your experience, based on your requirements, you can configure those settings and parameters. Like in DJI, you can fly up to 2 kilometers up in the sky, which is not right, because flying of a drone is up to 400 feet only. So
But that will be right in the path of your
manned
manned.
flight, manned flight, yes. So that's why there is an objection on that. Okay, so people are flying like that drones, which is very dangerous. Okay, so you should always see your drone will sorry, your manned aircraft will be not flying so low to the ground, not 2 kilometer low to the ground. Okay, unless it is coming near to the runway. Okay, or it is in a landing position, whereas in a normal flight position it will be always 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet kind of flight only. But
But it will always be, I mean, this kind of risk will always be there in the funnel zone, right? Even if it's close to the airport, there will be some kind of a funnel zone which is also coming under red zone. But the DJI can 2 kilometer up will straight away conflict this particular funnel zone.
correct, that is what we have to avoid. Okay, that is why there is no restriction set on it. So you have to set the restrictions on your DJI drones. There is a parameter to change, because DJI drones are open. You can configure, you can set all these things. So normally, if you see our type certified drones, they have been limited. Like our type certified drone, our drones, what we are flying, they have a vertical height limitation of 98 feet. Your drone cannot go above 98 feet. It will again trigger the RTL. So you
Okay.
have geofencing, and you have a vertical altitude also set to 98, 98 or 96. Something is set on that. So it cannot go beyond that. And anyway, we are not flying about 20 feet also. Not even 10, 20, 10. No, we are not going about 20 feet also when we are flying those drones. Because
Okay.
now upper lega, it will bring strain to my neck. Okay. So I will try
Right.
to fly drone in my visual side, visual line side. But lot of
Right.
DJI is a small drone, toy drone kind of thing. So लोग देते हैं throttle, ऊपर तक लेके जाते हैं. Sometimes people fly DJI drones under BVLS conditions. उनको पता ही नहीं रहता drone कहाँ पे, because वो screen पे दिखते रहता है where it is, what it is doing and all the things. उसका कैमरा पे, FPV कैमरा पे footage आपको screen पे दिखते रहता है. Now new controllers are there, so you can see where it is flying. So people are flying like that. Okay, which is very dangerous. Okay, अभी कैसे ना DJI drones आप यूज कर रहे हो, फ्लाई कर रहे हो, सब कुछ चल रहा है रोजी रोजी, everything is good. The moment you land up into trouble or somebody spots you, your drone is confiscated, you are also taken into the custody kind of thing. Like in between, you have seen that there was a some event happening in Gujarat, and two people flew the drone to capture the event of that particular event. कोल्ड प्ले का इवेंट था गुजरात में, अहमदाबाद में. So there were two people who have flown the drones without the permissions. तो उनका ड्रोन उन्होंने कॉन्फिस्केट कर लिया. Okay? And they were given some warnings or penalty and all that things. Okay? You should not do all those things.
Okay.
Okay, so undesired states generally defined as operational condition where unintended situation result in reduction in margin or safety. Okay, I will give you one classic example of this. Like my son is very fond of flying the drones, so he always have small drones. He makes small drones or some, drones. So he was actually testing one small miniature drone. Okay, very small drone. This is during the lockdown period, and he was flying it. Then he landed that drone, and he kept the remote on the table, and he went inside for to bring something, maybe battery or something he wanted to bring. He went inside the bedroom. My daughter, who was younger than him, she saw that remote was kept. She took the remote in hand and just pushed the throttle. Okay, immediately drone took off and it crashed the ceiling. इमीडिएटली उसका जैसे ऊपर से नीचे गिरा, उसका एक आर्म टूट गया, एक प्रोपेलर टूट गया, द फ्रेम भी टूट गया उसका. And even the what is that, these were having a small batteries, not batteries, small motors. उसका मोटर का भी टिप भी बेंड हो गया. So that is undesired effect, you know. So that is why if you see these drones, normally our drones, when we land, automatically after 3 seconds your drone will become disarmed. That means even you try to give a throttle, you try to arm it and try to take off, your drone will not take off. So these safety procedures are being put up into the drones because of such kind of situations. आप जब तक सेफ्टी स्विच ऑफ नहीं करते हो ड्रोन से, तब तक आपका ड्रोन विल नॉट बी रेडी टू फ्लाई. Okay, so these things have been configured in the drones, looking into the safety aspects, okay, or undesired states or undesired results. Clear? Any questions on threat, error, and management?
No.
So this framework is still not clear. Still, there is a lot of work is required from ICAO as well as from the people. Inputs are required from people who are actually flying. How this will come, how this framework will be applicable from a drone perspective. Still in a development stage it is. So maybe we'll have in near future a proper documentation on this topic. Okay, so what are the emergency identifications? It could be a pilot error. It could be due to heavy wind, loss of altitude because of IMU failure. So if you see this IMU failure, you have a one IMU. If that IMU module gets failed, what will happen? The drone will not know what is the altitude, how far it is flying, how high, what speed it is flying, what is the wind speed. All this information it will not, or it will not know the orientation. Compass will fail. So everything can be. So that's why higher drones, the complex drones, you will all not have only one IMU. It will have multiple IMUs. It could have two IMUs or three IMUs. So it is getting the inputs from multiple IMUs. Even one IMU get failed, you still have two IMUs in your drones. Similarly, why your DJI drones are stable? Because they always have a built-in redundancy in the electronic components. Okay, so they have multiple IOMUs, they will have multiple obstacle sensors. All that things is built into drone, and that's why the cost of those drone goes high. Similarly, even our agriculture drone will have a three IOMUs. Multiple redundancies built into the flight controller. Even your radars, okay, the terrain radar, obstacle radars, you will put obstacle radar in front, you will put obstacle radar in back, you will put obstacle or terrain radar at the bottom of the drone. So all these components are being added to the drone for safety purposes. Okay, so you do not have any kind of failure. Okay, so remote control failure, compass failure, motor propeller damage, or even medical emergency. All of a sudden your pilot is not well, he is unwell, he is unable to understand or he is unable to gauge the flying of the drone. So in that scenario, the co-pilot should take over and safely land the drone. Or in case the pilot is only one single pilot, there is a button on the remote itself which you can press that button and it will trigger the RTN. You don't need to do anything else. Okay, that way you can safely land your drone from the position. Okay, so these are the emergency situations. So with that, we complete our emergency handling or risk analysis or assessment topic. Any questions so far? Or we are good to take the break? Break लेना है या continue करना है?
The next session is for how long?
10 minutes. Session. Next
Yes.
session थोड़ा लंबा है, 2 sessions है अभी, payload installation and so we'll try to complete by 5:30 5:45 max. Okay.
Okay.
So अभी break लेते हैं 10 मिनट का and then we will continue those topic and then we'll wind up by 5:45 max. ठीक है? Those are small sessions, not big sessions. It depends upon how much you talk and how much you explain and all the things. It depends. Okay, so 1 घंटा भी बात कर सकते, 1.5 घंटा भी बात कर सकते, 2 घंटा भी बात कर सकते. आप मेरे से बात करते रहोगे ना, I can talk to you 10 hours on the topic. Okay. Topic को consider करते, I will give you as much as information is required and we'll try to finish it up by 5:45. ठीक है?
So are we taking 10 minutes now or we are continuing?
10 minutes break. I hope
Okay.
everybody is okay for that.
Yeah, that's fine.